Is the January U.S. jobs report as good as it looks? Here to discuss is Alexander Morris of FM Investments. Alex, the U.S. economy added 130,000 jobs in January. That was almost double what economists polled by Reuters had expected, and the unemployment rate ticked down to 4.3%. What do you make of those numbers?
Certainly, the report would lead you to believe things are great. Looking backwards, this is a certain market improvement versus where we were, and this certainly caught economists who were being surveyed by surprise. In general, though, we do know the labor market has overall softened. So one really strong report is just one really strong report. This has been delayed, and it has some question as to whether or not all of the data was collected in all the usual ways. So I think this is a great sign for the economy. Not a great sign if you were hoping for three or more rate cuts to come in the near future, but so far, so good.
Well, revisions for 2025 went in the opposite direction, showing only 181,000 jobs were added for the entire year last year. And that stands in stark contrast to the previously estimated 584,000 jobs that were estimated. So, what do you make of that massive downward revision?
Investors would be wise to look at that and question, are these lies, damn lies, or just statistics? Without doubt. But I think it does show that the economy was softening, the labor market was cracking. We've heard Jay Powell and the Fed group talk about that for a very long period of time. No surprise to find that we didn't add as many jobs as we might have hoped. We still add 181,000 jobs, still a lot of jobs. There's been a lot of talk about maybe this would have been a year of no actual job growth, yet somehow no net recession. So this does at least square some of the classical circles here, as it were. But the economy as a whole seems to be lumbering forward. Fundamentals are pretty good. We know the labor market has been a source of the Fed's concern. And what we're seeing from the numbers are it's not as bad as we might have feared, but we're not in the clear just yet.
We get the next inflation report with the consumer price index on Friday. How much is riding on that now?
I think there's a lot more riding on that report than there was 12 hours ago. And I think the economists and market participants are looking for a reason to see more action from the Fed than they're going to get. Certainly, the Fed has been the subject of much palace intrigue. That certainly seems poised to keep rates where they are versus pushing them down further. And on the other side of that palace intrigue seems to be a force that wants to push rates down much further than maybe they should. And all of that probably balances out to a more hesitant set of rate cuts. So anything from the CPI that doesn't show inflation has been squelched once and for all, probably keeps rates where they are. And I think a lot more eyeballs will be on that report on Friday than usual.
You mentioned palace intrigue. You're in the nation's capital. What's the latest buzz concerning Trump's Fed chair nominee, Kevin Warsh?
I think the biggest question is not will we get Kevin Warsh, but when will we get Kevin Warsh? It's not immediately clear that Senator Tillis and the Senate Banking Committee is going to allow his nomination to proceed until Jay Powell's criminal investigation, as raised by the president, is resolved. We don't really know what resolved means and how we'll know it when we see it. So what seemed like a pretty orderly transition midway through the year is now put into question. Of course, what happens in the interim? Our colleague Mark Spindell has written a lot about this in The Myth of Independence, but we will sort of get the status quo, but now potentially the Fed won't have Jay Powell as its chair, but maybe the FOMC, the rate setting policy committee, will. So we're really setting this up for a great deal of interest. The hope is cooler heads prevail. We avoid all the constitutional crises that we could otherwise write out here. But so far, no sign of that cracking yet.